What does the presidential primary have to do with the legislature? Well, there's a bill right now that has everything to do with the presidential election, which is coming up in early 2016. At this moment, we don't really know when. Let's welcome in the chairman of the North Carolina Republican Party, Chairman Claude Pope. Mr. Chairman, how are you this morning?
Henry, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. You're in the short rows, right? How much longer you got before you're done?
About a month and change, and we got a great state convention coming up in early June. We've got Governor Scott Walker, Donald Trump, John Bolton, and several others yet to be announced. So it's going to be a great convention, and I'm riding off into the sunset with mixed emotions, joy and happiness.
I understand the sentiment. And, hey, that's great that Scott Walker's coming to North Carolina. It might be a little clue also that he's coming to North Carolina. Mr. Chairman, we are now the 9th largest state in the country, and people have been saying for a long time, and I'm one of them, our presidential election process in the primary, by the time we get to May, is, we're irrelevant. The decision is usually made by the time it gets here. North Carolina has a chance to step out and have the eyes of the world on it, and really become the state that would make or break somebody in the presidential election. And so, as it stands right now, the presidential election primary is scheduled, as I understand it, in mid-February. But we ran into a little problem with the National Republican Committee on that. They didn't like that. They didn't like that, did they?
Well, we Republicans have for years wanted an earlier primary because, like you said, by the time May rolls around, it's pretty much a done deal who the nominee is going to be. So we've been lobbying for a while to get the primary changed and get it moved earlier. The problem is that the RNC has a set of rules, and those rules have been around for quite some time, which carve out February primaries only for 4 states, Nevada, Iowa, New Hampshire, and South Carolina. So although we want an early primary, we can't go in February, and if we do, we get penalized our delegation. Because of our winning ways, and you had mentioned we're the 9th largest state, we will actually have the 6th largest delegation at the national convention, assuming we can get this primary date changed. So,
which is what I believe 72 delegates.
72 delegates, which is a record high for us, and those delegates are gold with respect to the presidential primary candidates because they all want those delegates. So the winner of the nomination is the one that has the most delegates on the floor during the convention. So if we get our delegate cut from 72 down to 12, none of these guys are coming to North Carolina, and the benefit of having an earlier primary and the media spotlight and all that just vaporizes overnight because they're not going to spend millions of dollars chasing 12 delegates. It just won't happen.
So this past weekend, your Central Committee for the North Carolina Republican Party made a decision to ask the legislature to move this thing. Where do you want them to move it?
Well, the House has already passed a bill which would move the primary date to March the 8th. We just wanted any time in March to be compliant with the RNC rules. Some folks would like it on the 1st, others like it on the 22nd. And there's benefits to any of those dates depending on who else is having a primary on that date. For example, Florida has their primary on the 15th, and that's Rubio versus Bush. We don't want to get in the way of that. And but Arizona is the only state that has a primary on the 22nd, so we could get a lot of attention if we went on the 22nd or the 1st. I mean, the 1st is going to be the first legal day that we could have it according to the rules.
I was hoping for the 1st. I mean, the 8th would be good also because we'd be the big story. Really, for a couple of weeks all the way up to March 8th, North Carolina would be.
Absolutely. So really, for our purposes, any day in March is good for us. We'll let the House and the Senate kind of bicker about which day is better, and for whatever reasons they want. We just got to get it out of February.
I was going to say, when are they going to do something about it, though? We've been talking about this forever. When's the legislature going to move it?
Well, I think I'm confident that they're going to move it. Right now it's crossover week, so they're a little bit busy this week. But the House bill's already crossed over, so there's not a big push to get it done this week. But they certainly have to get it done by the end of the session. Whenever that is, it may be June or July before we have a final date. But the point is, we got to get this done. And we've got to give the grassroots Republicans in this state a chance to finally have their voices heard. We had an incredible impact in 1976 when we became the first state that Ronald Reagan won in a primary. And that win kept him in the race long enough to pick up Texas and some other states and actually have pretty good depth of delegates going into the National Convention in 76, although he didn't win it. It did propel him to 1980. Mm-hmm. So we can make a huge difference if given the opportunity to, and we certainly don't want to disenfranchise our grassroots by telling them that they cannot be elected as a delegate to the convention this year.
Is there opposition? At one point, Claude, I had heard that there were actually people in the North Carolina Senate who was saying, you know what, we don't care what the National Committee says. We're going to keep it in February. Is there some of that still going on?
I think there's still some of that. And, they're trying to make a point. And the point, like you alluded to earlier, is North Carolina matters now. We are relevant. We are a large state. And they just want their voice to be a little bit louder. And I get that. And there is a movement among the RNC to change the whole carve-out process. And, it won't change in 2016, but it certainly could change in 2020. And I'm willing to bet that North Carolina will be moved far up on that list. In fact, we may become one of those carve-outs in February. So, they're making their point, and their voice has been heard. And it's time now to at least get compliant for this cycle, and let's move on.
I'm going to be in the legislature today, and I'm going to be asking them about this.
Good,
let me tell you something. I mean,
look, Bob Rucho.
Yeah, I know. I think we'll probably be seeing Senator Rucho today. Why is it that everything kind of ends up? Talk to Bob Rucho. that seems to be what happened. Of course, Senator Rucho's a good friend. He's a good guy from Charlotte. But, he's very opinionated, and a lot of times things get hung up when it gets over there to him. But the reality of it is that this is an economic opportunity for North Carolina. Now, that sounds very self-serving since I'm in the broadcasting industry, and all the radio and TV guys want this settle. So, because the candidates will start coming to North Carolina spending money right away. But, I mean, it's good for the whole state.
It is good for the state, and not only for the radio guys, but the restaurateurs and the hotel operators and the venue operators and the grassroots in particular. I mean, this is our chance to listen to these folks up close and personal. We want to hear them on the stump, and we want to hear how they respond to the tough questions and the spotlight, because we need to vet these candidates. We've got a deep, deep bench.
Yeah.
And I'll take any of these guys over the Democratic opponent, but we need to pick the best one. And,
we do
carry that mantle forward into 2016.
But
I want them to come.
Once this is settled, the candidates will be filtering into North Carolina, and there'll be rallies everywhere. And hey, the spotlight of the world will be on North Carolina, so we need this settled. Mr. Chairman, thank you for all you do, and thank you for being with us this morning.
Henry, thank you so much, and drop by headquarters today if you're in Raleigh.
Well, we're going to have a bunch of people we have time. We might do that. It's great to talk to you, and thank you for a great job, and good luck in your last month on the job as chairman of the party.
Thanks so much, Henry.
All right, chairman of the North Carolina Republican Party, Claude Pope.